The day I watched my 7-month-old daughter turn purple under the Abuja rain, I understood something ugly about myself and my family that I had been running from my whole life. I had money, power, a mansion on a hill, but my own mother had thrown my wife and my baby out onto the street like they were trash. Tell me honestly, if you discovered your mother did that to your child, what would you do? My name is Musa, and this is not a fairy tale about a rich man with a perfect life. This is the night I chose between the woman who gave birth to me and the little girl who almost died because of her. When this all started, it was just another business trip at least. That is what I told myself. My suitcase was packed. My driver was waiting. My phone was buzzing with congratulatory messages from partners and lawyers. Oil deal of the year, billions on the table, the kind of contract that makes news anchors say your name in that careful, respectful tone. On paper, I was winning, but in my chest there was this quiet ache I had been ignoring for months. At the front door of my mansion under the soft ceiling lights, my wife Aisha stood with our baby girl on her hip. 7 months old, big brown eyes, little fingers, always reaching for something like the whole world belonged to her. She was fussing that night, making those soft, frustrated sounds that only parents really understand. I leaned in, kissed her tiny forehead and whispered, "Be good while Daddy is away." "Okay. I'll come back soon, I promise." Behind Aisha, halfway down the hallway, my mother was watching us. Mama Aduni. If you grew up in a traditional African home, you know that type of mother. Strong, loud, feared the one who holds the whole family in her fist and believes that gives her the right to decide everything. Her wrapper was tied perfectly, headscarf, sharp eyes, even sharper. The baby whimpered again, and Aisha gently rocked her, humming under her breath. Then my mother's voice cut through the house like a blade. "Stop that crying," she snapped. "A daughter-in-law as weak as you, this house does not need. Silence that baby immediately. You are disturbing the peace of this house." Aisha flinched, her shoulders tightening. "Mom, please. It's late. She is just restless." "The baby has spoken," my mother said, as if she was giving some ancient judgment. "A wife who does not submit to her husband's family is not worthy of staying in Musa's house." And here is the part that still haunts me. I did not say anything. I looked between them, forced a smile, like I was smoothing wrinkles out of fabric, and told Aisha, "Just a few days, okay? If you need anything, call me even if it's 3 in the morning." She nodded, but the worry in her eyes did not move. I walked out of that door, thinking I could keep everyone happy, thinking I could balance tradition and love just by throwing money and soft words at the problem. I thought I had time to fix things later. I was wrong. Cut to a few hours later. Hamad International Airport in Doha. If you have ever been there, you know how it feels like a golden city inside a city. Lights reflecting off marble floors. Giant screens flashing flights and adverts for watches that cost more than a house. My dark tailored suit fit me like a second skin. The kind you buy not just to wear, but to send messages. The contract had just been signed, the last document stamped, the last handshake done. The oil deal we had been chasing for months was finally ours. Everyone around me was satisfied. My lawyers, my partners, even the airline staff who saw the name on my ticket. The thing is, none of that made my heart feel full. It felt hollow, like something important was missing, and no amount of zeros in my bank account could fill it. You ever get everything you thought you wanted and feel absolutely nothing inside? You know what I mean? I checked my watch. 25 minutes until boarding. I sat down in the lounge, pulled out my phone, and smiled for the first real time that day, because I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to see my girls. Just a quick video call, just to hear Aisha's sleepy voice, see my daughter's chubby cheeks, maybe catch her grabbing the phone like she always did. I was opening the app to call when my phone rang first. Unknown number. Abuja area code. I hesitated for half a second, then answered. "Hello, this is Musa." The voice on the other end was female, but it was shaking like each word was squeezing past fear. "Sir Musa, please. I hope this is really you." "It is," I said, already sitting up straighter. "Who is this?" She took a breath so shaky I could hear it through the line. "Your wife and your baby girl. They are sitting outside on the streets of Abuja in the rain, begging." The entire airport disappeared. I am not being dramatic. The lights, the hum of conversations, the rolling suitcases, the smell of coffee. Gone. All I could hear were those words bouncing around in my skull. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" My voice came out deeper, like it belonged to someone else. "They were thrown out," she whispered. "By your mother. I found them near Garki Market Gate. The baby. She is freezing. I thought you should know." My hand started to shake so badly I had to grip the arm of the chair to stay steady. My own mother. Throwing my wife and my 7-month-old daughter out of the house, sitting in the rain, begging. "Is she hurt?" I asked, pushing the words out past the rock lodged in my throat. "My baby, is she hurt?" "The little one has been crying non-stop," the woman replied, voice breaking. "Your wife looks exhausted, sir. I did not want to leave them alone too long. I just stepped away to make this call. I could not breathe. It felt like someone had reached inside and grabbed my lungs with an icy hand. I did not think about my suitcase, my briefcase, the contract, nothing. I shot to my feet so fast the chair crashed behind me, and people turned to stare, but I did not see them. I just started running. Let me ask you this. If someone called you right now and told you your child was sitting in the rain on the street because your own mother kicked them out, would you stay calm? Finish your latte? Wait for your boarding group to be called? Or would you run like the world was on fire? I got to the airline counter, chest-heaving tie pulled loose. The clerk looked up with that professional smile they practice. "I need the earliest flight to Abuja," I said. "Right now." She glanced at her screen. "Sir, the earliest flight is the one you already booked, but it does not board for another I do not need business class," I cut in. "I do not need priority boarding. I do not need snacks or champagne or any of it. I just need a seat, any seat." Her fingers flew over the keyboard a little faster after she saw my face properly. "There is exactly one seat left," she said after a second. "Last row next to the restroom. Book it." Here is a fun image for you. A billionaire in a designer suit running through an airport with no luggage, begging for the last seat next to the toilet. Yeah, that happened. At the gate, I was moving before they even finished calling the row number. I walked down the aisle with my heart hammering loud enough to drown out the engine. People were stuffing bags into the overhead, complaining about leg room, taking selfies. The normal problems of normal travelers. I squeezed into the last row, the smell of jet fuel thick in the air. I leaned my head back, shut my eyes, then opened them again, because the images behind my eyelids were worse. Aisha drenched, clutching our baby sitting on wet concrete as cars passed by. My little girl's lips turning blue. I told myself, no, this cannot be true. She would not go that far. But another voice, older and quieter, answered back inside me. She wanted a grandson, someone to carry the name. She never accepted that your first child was a girl. Let me pause and give you context. Where I come from in parts of northern Nigeria, in Hausa culture, sons are still often seen as the heirs, the ones who take the land, the business, the blessings, the name. Daughters are loved, yes, but sometimes only until they become someone else's wife. It is a mindset that is slowly changing, but in my mother's generation, it was carved in stone. I had seen other men talk like that, insisting on my heir, my boy, my lion. But I had always told myself I was different. I studied in London. I watched my father die too young, and I learned that when you are standing at a grave, the dirt does not ask whether the person buried there was male or female. Death does not care. Love should not either. But culture has long roots, and my mother's roots ran deep. Up ahead, a baby started crying loud and insistent, and I looked up. A little boy, maybe a year old, fussing in his mother's arms. She held him close, whispered something into his hair, kissed the top of his head. Warm. Safe. Protected. My chest tightened so much it hurt. I imagined my daughter's bare feet on cold pavement, her small body pressed against Aisha's chest, both of them soaked to the bone. Sleeping people drove by, unaware that a child was almost freezing to death, just a few streets away. The man in the seat next to me, maybe mid-30s, glanced over. "Brother, are you all right? You look troubled." I turned my head and decided not to lie. "My wife and my daughter," I said quietly. "They are in danger." He did not push for details. He just placed a hand on my shoulder and bowed his head slightly, whispering a prayer under his breath. Time on that flight was cruel. Minutes stretched like hours. There was no signal, so my phone was just a black piece of glass in my hand, reflecting the face of a man who suddenly looked a lot older than he had in the boardroom a few hours earlier. I stared at the dark window and whispered, "Hold on, my princess daddy is coming." Fear is a strange thing. I have sat across from politicians who could ruin my business with one signature. I have negotiated with men whose smiles hid knives, and I stayed calm through it all. But on that flight, strapped into the cheapest seat on the plane, I was more scared than I had ever been in my life. The plane finally landed in Abuja around 3 a.m. The city outside the window was wrapped in rain and darkness, the streetlights flickering like tired eyes. The moment the seatbelt sign went off, I was on my feet. No carry-on, no calm exit. Just raw urgency. My phone buzzed as it found signal. A new text from that unknown number. "Sir Musa, I saw your wife and the baby near Garki Market. If the rain continues, they will be in danger. I am still trying to look for them, but I am not sure they are still there. Garki Market at 3 a.m. in a storm. That is not where you want to imagine your wife and baby." My driver, Gibril, was waiting outside with my SUV. Usually I come out looking composed, tie-straight bag in hand, nodding like a king returning to his castle. That night, I walked out like a hurricane in a suit. The second he saw my face, he took half a step back. "Sir." "What happened?" "Drive," I said, climbing into the back. "Garki Market, now. Should we go home first?" "Change clothes, drop your things," he started. I turned my head slowly, and he saw something in my eyes that made his words die in his throat. "I am not going home while my wife and my daughter are on the streets." We took off. The rain slammed against the windshield wipers, fighting to keep up. The roads were half empty, just a few taxis and trucks cutting through the water. Streetlights stretched along the highway like glowing knives, each one dragging some fresh cut across my heart. I imagined Aisha walking in that same rain, holding our baby under her shirt, begging strangers for help, being told to move along, being looked at like a nuisance. Let me ask you directly, have you ever realized too late that you left the person you love most in the world with someone who did not deserve their trust? "Sir," Gibril said softly as we turned toward the market. "The rain tonight was very heavy. If they were outside..." My hand slammed into the back of his seat before I could stop it. "Nothing is allowed to happen to them," I said, my voice low but sharp. Nothing. A few minutes later, we pulled up near the gate of Garki Market. The whole area was soaked puddles, reflecting the weak yellow glow of a few streetlights. A small crowd had gathered under a jutting tin roof by the entrance, trying to stay dry. Their faces turned as my SUV stopped. I stepped out, my shoes sinking into muddy water. Rain hit my face like slaps. I did not care. I pushed through the crowd. "Excuse me, please. I'm looking for someone." a woman selling vegetables. Her goods, covered with plastic sheets to keep off the rain, peered up at me. "Who are you looking for, sir?" "My wife," I said, breath already short. "And my baby. Someone said they were here." Her expression softened with recognition. "There was a young mother and a baby here sitting by the gate," she said. "But they left. The rain was too strong. She was holding the baby under her shirt to keep her warm. She looked very weak." "Where did they go?" I asked. She lifted a hand and pointed toward a narrow road snaking behind the market. "That way, to the slum behind the stalls." I did not say thank you. There was no space in my chest for manners. I just started running. The road turned into a dark alley, muddy, cluttered with trash bags. Old crates, rusted metal sheets, leaning against cracked walls. The smell of damp garbage mixed with the rain. Each step sent dirty water splashing up my trousers. Thunder grumbled overhead. "Aisha!" I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. "Aisha, my baby, where are you?" No answer. Just the rain. The creak of a loose piece of metal, a dog barking in the distance. Then I heard it, a sound so small, I almost thought I imagined it. A thin, weak cry like someone was trying to cry, but did not have the strength left. If the wind had been a little louder, I might have missed it. I froze, turned my head in the direction it came from. Parents will understand this. There are 1,000 baby cries in the world, but the sound of your own child is like a fingerprint for your ears. My heart knew that sound instantly. I ran toward it, turned the last corner of the alley, and I saw them. Aisha was sitting on the bare cement back against a peeling wall, legs pulled in. Her hair was plastered to her face, rain streaming down her cheeks, mixing with tears. Her eyes were swollen and red, her lips tinged blue from the cold. She had taken off her shirt and wrapped it tightly around the baby, pressing that tiny body against her bare chest to share what little warmth she had left. Our daughter was curled there, shivering in violent little jerks. Her face, God, her face was turning purple. Her cry was not even a cry anymore, just small broken breaths. For a second, my knees literally buckled. There was this wave of horror that washed over me head to toe. "Aisha," I breathed, dropping down beside her in the water. "Oh my God, Aisha." Her eyes lifted slowly, unfocused at first, then sharpening when she saw me. "Musa," she whispered. Voice cracked and rough. You came." I pulled them both into my arms, feeling how cold they were, how fragile. I tried to hold them to shield them from the rain like my arms could turn into walls. "What happened? Who did this?" Aisha's fingers dug weakly into my jacket. "Your mother," she said, each word heavy. "She kicked us out. She said a girl child is useless. She said I do not deserve a place in the house if I cannot give her a grandson. You want to know what rage feels like at its purest form? It is fire and ice at the same time." My vision blurred. My ears rang. And for a second, I think if my mother had been in front of me right then, I do not know what I might have done. I lifted my daughter carefully in my arms and kissed her forehead, the same place I had kissed before leaving for Doha. It was cold. "Daddy is here," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Daddy is here. Now, my princess. I have you, okay? Just hold on." She did not cry. That scared me more than the purple color. "Gibrel," I shouted, turning my head. "Get the car. Now we are going to the hospital." He had been stumbling behind me in the alley and immediately turned to run back. I helped Aisha to her feet, kept my daughter pressed against my chest under my jacket, trying to share every bit of warmth I had. We staggered back through the alley, past the trash, past the puddles, past a stray cat that watched us with wide eyes. The world felt unreal, like a movie, where everything is happening too fast and too slow at the same time. Let me interrupt myself for a second. If it were you in that alley, your wife half-frozen your child on the edge of death, knowing your own mother did this, what would be going through your mind, honestly? Forgiveness or revenge? We reached the SUV and tumbled inside. The heater blasted, but it felt useless against the cold in my bones. Aisha leaned into me, shivering. I held our daughter against my bare chest, now my shirt open, my arms wrapped around her. On the way to Abuja National Hospital, the rain sounded like the world was breaking apart on the roof of the car. Streetlights blurred past us. My focus narrowed down to the tiny weight in my arms and the shallow, uneven breaths against my skin. "Aisha, are you okay?" I asked. She rested her head on my shoulder, voice barely audible. "I am fine," she whispered. "Just make sure she is safe." That sentence cut me so deep, there are still scars. The woman who had been humiliated, thrown out, forced to sit on wet concrete with our child in her arms, was still thinking about the baby first. We screeched to a halt at the hospital gates. I practically flew out of the car, clutching my daughter, rushing through the sliding doors. "Emergency!" I shouted. "My daughter is freezing. She is only 7 months." Nurses looked up as they took in the scene. Well-dressed man, soaked clothes, baby limp in his arms, wife stumbling behind him. In seconds, they were around us. A young doctor grabbed a quick look at my daughter, and his expression changed from professional calm to alarm. "Severe hypothermia," he said to the nurse. "Get her into emergency care now." Someone brought a small mobile bed. A nurse reached for my daughter. "Sir, please," she said in a firm but gentle tone. "We need to take her." Letting go of my baby girl in that moment felt like letting go of my own heartbeat. My arms felt suddenly weightless and wrong. They took her away down the corridor, disappearing behind swinging doors, with bright lights above them. They helped Aisha onto another bed. She was shaking so hard, her teeth were chattering. "She needs warmth and fluids too," another nurse said. Then they were both gone, wheeled away from me. I stood there in the middle of the emergency ward, dripping on the floor ends. Empty chest, completely hollow. For a moment, I felt like a ghost in my own life. Later, I sat in the waiting area under harsh fluorescent lights. My driver draped a coat over my shoulders, but it might as well have been paper. The only sounds were the rain on the roof and a distant announcement about visiting hours. Aisha's words played in my head on a loop. She said women who give birth to girls do not deserve a place in the house. She said the baby is useless. My mind went back to childhood memories I had packed away in the dark. My mother pushing my sisters aside to serve me first. My mother saying, "You are the heir, you are the man, you are the one who will carry our name," while my sisters rolled their eyes and laughed like it was a joke they were used to hearing. My mother's disappointment when we got news that my first child was a girl, how her congratulations sounded thin. I had always told myself she would come around, that once she held that baby, once she saw her smile, all that old thinking would melt away. I had been wrong about that too. At some point I noticed my hands were clenched so tight, my nails had carved red marks into my palms. The doctor walked back toward me, peeling off his gloves. My heart jumped into my throat. "Mr. Musa," he said softly, "your daughter is stabilizing. We have warmed her body and started fluids. She is still very weak, but she will live." I closed my eyes and let out a breath that felt like it had been held hostage since the instant I picked up the phone in Doha. My shoulders shook. "What about my wife?" I asked. Voice rough. "She is stable as well," he replied. "Cold exposure exhaustion, but no permanent damage. What they need now is rest and safety." That last word stuck, safety. The person who had made them unsafe was my own mother. In the little hospital room later, Aisha lay on the bed covered in blankets. Our daughter was in a warm crib beside her, hooked up to small tubes, a tiny cap on her head. cheeks slowly returning to their normal color. The steady beep of the monitor was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I stood between them, one hand resting on the crib, the other holding Aisha's hand. She turned her head and gave me a weak smile. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I let her suffer like that. I could not protect her." Those words broke my heart in a completely different way. "No," I said, shaking my head, feeling my eyes burn. "This is not your fault, and it is not hers. I swear to you this will never happen again." Her eyes filled with fresh tears. "Musa, please, do not do anything reckless. Mama is still your mother." I looked at our daughter's tiny face, the way her chest rose and fell, and something inside me hardened into steel. "A mother does not do this to her grandchild," I said quietly. "A mother does not throw a 7-month-old into the rain. A mother does not turn her daughter-in-law into a beggar because she gave birth to a girl." I squeezed her hand. "I will protect you and our daughter, even if I have to stand against anyone." I walked out of that room a different man than the one who had walked through Doha Airport, feeling empty. The weight in my chest had changed from fear to something sharper. We drove back to my mansion on Maitama Hill. From the outside, it looked the same as always. Lights, glowing gardens, trimmed guards at the gate. But through my eyes, it looked like a war zone waiting to happen. The SUV pulled up. The guards straightened as I stepped out. Their eyes flicking over my still damp clothes, my expression. I walked inside. The golden light spilled across the marble floor like nothing bad ever happened in this house. My mother appeared at the top of the grand staircase, dressed in her green wrapper gold bracelet, shining on her wrist, chin lifted. "Where have you been all night?" she demanded. "People said they saw you running like a madman in the rain. Is this how a man of your status behaves?" I did not bother with greetings. "What did you do?" I asked. 4 words, simple words, but the way I said them made the air in that house change. She stiffened. "What are you talking about?" I took a slow step forward, then another climbing the stairs. "Aisha and my daughter were thrown out of this house," I said, feeling my voice get lower and lower. "You left them in the rain. My child almost died." Silence spread through the house like smoke. Then she scoffed, lifted her chin higher. "So what?" she said. "That is her fate. I warned her this house needs a male heir. She gave birth to something useless, a girl, so she must accept the consequences." That sentence, "something useless," almost made my vision go black. "You just called your own granddaughter useless," I said slowly. "Yes," she answered without hesitation. "A girl cannot carry the family name. She cannot secure the lineage. She does not deserve your name." I did not move for a long moment. I just stared at her. Then my hand shot out and slammed into the wooden railing so hard it made a thunderous crack. The sound echoed all the way through the mansion. "My daughter is my flesh and blood," I yelled. "She is bone of my bone, and she almost died because of you." My mother actually flinched. This was not the obedient son. She had raised the boy who had always bowed his head and said yes. This was someone else. You dare speak to me like this," she stammered. I climbed the last few steps until we were on the same level. "I stood outside an emergency room tonight," I said, my voice shaking for a new reason now, watching my child turn purple, listening to her fight for each breath. I watched my wife kneel in the rain for hours, while you slept in a warm bed under a roof that I paid for. She opened her mouth, but I raised my hand sharply. "No, tonight you do not speak. You listen." Her lips clamped shut. From this moment, I said each word measured, "You no longer have the right to touch my wife. You no longer have the right to go near my daughter. You no longer have the right to decide anything in this house." "Musa," she gasped. "You dare say this to me? I am the woman who gave birth to you. I am your mother." "A real mother does not throw her grandchild into the rain," I replied. The words hit her like a blow. She staggered back, grabbing the railing. "You may stay here," I continued, my voice dropping colder. "Only if you apologize to Aisha and kneel before my daughter." That was the line she could not accept. "You want me, your mother, to kneel before a baby girl?" she hissed. "Not a baby girl," I said. "My princess, and your only grandchild if you still want that title." She stared at me like I had betrayed not just her, but every tradition she believed in. "Musa, you cannot throw me out of your father's house," she said. I walked past her down the stairs and opened the front door. Cool night air rushed in. Without turning back, I said, "My father taught me love, but he did not teach me to tolerate cruelty. If you do not apologize, you may leave this house tonight." Then I walked out, closing the door behind me. At that point, I thought the war was over. I thought the line had been drawn, and either she would bend or break. But here is the twist. It was just getting started. This next part I only pieced together later from what the staff told me and from what I found. While I was sitting back at the hospital with Aisha and our daughter, thinking I had made my choice, my mother was alone in that mansion, and her pride was busy choosing violence. She sat on the staircase for a long time after I left. They said with her heart pounding so hard that she pressed a hand to her chest. Never in her life had I spoken to her like that. Never had I told her no in such a final way. And what hurt her maybe more than my words was the realization that I had chosen my wife and my useless daughter over her. She got up eventually, every step slow, as if she was walking through something heavy. The chandelier glowed above her, but the house felt darker than usual. "It is just a baby girl," she whispered to herself, trying to calm her own mind. But for the first time, the sentence did not sound right even to her. It echoed back, cold and cruel. For a brief second, doubt stabbed her. She saw my daughter in her mind, small and shivering in the rain, and something old and buried inside her flinched. But pride is a dangerous thing. Her pride strangled that doubt, quickly pushed it aside, like it was the one in the wrong. She marched to her private room, the one nobody else was allowed to enter without permission. Inside, she opened an old wooden chest. In that chest were the things she had carried from the old world into the new. Charms, herbal powders, scrolls with handwritten incantations, relics from a time when people believed spirits sat at the table with them. "If gentleness will not work," she muttered, "then I will use the ways of the ancestors. Musa cannot lose himself because of a woman." She lit an oil lamp, the flame flickering wildly. Shadows danced across her face, making her look like someone else. She sprinkled powder on the wooden table, the bitter siddur smell filling the air. Her lips moved in low whispers, speaking in Hausa, calling on forces she believed would fix what she thought was broken. "Bring Musa back to his blood," she chanted. "Remove the stranger from our home." The lamp flame suddenly flared purple, then steadied. A gust of wind hit the window, rattling it. Any normal person might have taken that as a warning to stop. She took it as a sign she was being heard. "Tomorrow," she decided, voice going cold. "I will go to the hospital. I will take the baby outside, and I will take her far away somewhere Musa will never find her." Imagine that. Your own mother sitting in the dark, planning to steal your child, while you sit by that child's bed, thinking the worst is behind you. So let me ask you again. At what point does a parent stop being just strict and traditional and become something else entirely? And if you saw that line crossed, what would you do? The next morning, Abuja National Hospital was quiet, in that eerie way hospitals often are, when visiting hours haven't really started yet. The night shift nurses looked tired. The lights felt too bright, the air smelled like disinfectant and strong coffee. In our room, Aisha was sitting up now, color slowly returning to her face. Our daughter lay next to her tiny hands, curled into fists, breathing steady, skin finally warm. I sat in a chair between them, one hand on our daughter's little belly, feeling it rise and fall like proof that miracles exist, the other resting on the side of Aisha's bed. The rage in me had cooled overnight, but it had not disappeared. It had just settled deeper into something firm. That is when we heard it. Sharp, high-heel taps in the hallway, coming slowly but steadily toward our room. A nurse slipped in and leaned close to me. "Mr. Musa," she whispered. "Your mother is here." The air in the room went heavy. Aisha's hand found mine and squeezed. "Musa, please," she said quietly. "Do not let anything bad happen." I squeezed back and nodded. "No one will touch you or our child," I said, and I meant it. I stepped into the hallway and pulled the door softly shut behind me. There she was. Same green wrapper, same gold bracelet. But something in her face had changed. The pride was still there, but it was sitting next to pain, next to a kind of desperation that made her eyes look almost wild. "Musa," she said, using that tone that always used to make me stand up straighter. "Come here, I have something to say." We faced each other in the empty corridor. Nurses and doctors walked by, but slowed down when they saw our posture. Even without words, they could feel the tension. "I came to take the baby," my mother said, as if she was announcing something ordinary, like coming to take clothes from the laundry. I closed my eyes for a second, just breathing, then opened them again. The softness was gone. "The baby is my child," I said slowly. "Musa." "She is a girl," my mother snapped, jabbing a finger at my chest. "No one in our lineage will accept her. I did what I did for this family. You do not understand." "This family begins with me," I answered, voice hitting the walls. "Not with your outdated ideas. You think tradition gives you the right to torment my wife, to throw a 7-month-old into the rain, to decide who deserves to live under my roof." "I only wanted what was best," she tried again, voice rising. "You are blinded by that woman. She has bewitched you. You are turning away from your own blood." "No," I cut in. "This was about what is best for you, for your ego, for your image, not for my family." I straightened my back, feeling how the moment stretched between us. "You have two choices," I said. The hallway went quiet. A nurse actually stopped walking and pretended to check something on her clipboard just to stay nearby. "1. I raised a finger. You apologize to my wife. You kneel before my daughter. You accept that you were wrong." I lowered my hand. "Or 2. You leave our lives forever." She blinked like she physically could not process what she was hearing. "You are casting your mother aside," she whispered, voice shaking. "I am protecting my family," I said. "Something a mother should have taught me how to do, but never really did." She trembled. "For Aisha, you turn your back on me. For the life of my daughter," I answered, no hesitation. "I will turn my back on anyone who is trying to destroy her." And that was it. That was the line. A tear slipped down my mother's cheek, surprising both of us. I had not seen her cry since my father's funeral. She looked at me, then at the closed door behind me, where her granddaughter lay, then at her own hands. In that moment, I think she finally saw clearly. Not the proud story she had been telling herself, not, "I am protecting tradition," but the reality. A sick baby, a broken home, a son who no longer trusted her. Her knees gave way. She sank to the hospital floor, the sound of her body hitting the tiles echoing through the corridor. "Musa," she choked out. I was wrong. I forgot that I once lost a child too. I forgot that pain. I let my fear and pride speak for me." Her words came out like pieces of pottery falling off a shelf and shattering. She wept properly, fully. Not the controlled single tear of a proud woman, but the messy cry of someone whose heart was cracking open for the first time in years. "Musa, please," she finally whispered. "Let me see her." I looked down at her, the woman who had given me life, the same woman who had almost taken it from my daughter. And I felt two opposite forces pulling at me. Anger and mercy. History and change. Then I did something some people will say was weak, and others will say was the only right thing. I reached down, put my hand on her shoulder and said, "Not me. Aisha will decide." I opened the door and stepped aside. Inside, Aisha was sitting up holding our daughter in her arms. The baby's eyes bright, now taking in everything with that serious curiosity babies have. My mother walked in slowly, each step shaking her a little more. Aisha looked at her, and I swear there was no hatred in her gaze, just a deep, tired pain. Pain of a woman who had been made to feel less than for bringing life into the world in the wrong form. My mother reached the side of the bed and went down to her knees. It was not a graceful movement. It was clumsy and slow joints protesting pride shattering on the floor. "I am sorry," she said quietly, bowing her head. "I was wrong. She is my granddaughter." Aisha's eyes filled with tears, but her arms tightened around our daughter like she was shielding her with every fiber of her being. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but they were different now. Not the tears of fear in a dark alley, but tears of release of something heavy finally starting to lift. I stood beside them, one hand on Aisha's shoulder, the other resting near my daughter's little feet. For the first time, the four of us were in the same room, not as enemies, not as master and servant, not as oppressor and victim, but as something that might one day become a family again. Not perfect, never perfect, but honest. Outside the window, the Abuja sky that had been heavy with rain started to lighten. The first rays of sunrise crept in, turning the edges of the clouds gold. The light fell on my daughter's face, on Aisha's hair, on my mother's bowed head. It felt like a sign. Not that everything was fixed, but that a new story was beginning. A story where my daughter would not grow up being told she was less a story, where our bloodline would not be chained to beliefs that almost killed a baby. I kissed my daughter's forehead and said softly, "My little princess from today, no one will ever hurt you again if I can help it." Now let me ask you, because this is where people always argue in the comments when I tell this story. Do you think I was right to confront my mother like that? To give her that harsh choice? To tell her she had to kneel and apologize or leave? Was that disrespect? Or was that the bare minimum after what she did? Do you believe tradition can ever justify what she did? Or is that just cruelty, hiding behind old words? Some people tell me I should have cut her off completely, no second chances. Others say I was wrong to ever raise my voice to her, that no matter what she did, she is still my mother, and should always be honored. What do you think? And going even deeper, how do we decide which parts of our culture we keep and which we bury? At what point does "this is how our ancestors did it" stop being wisdom and start being a weapon we use against our own children? If you grew up in a family where boys were treated like gold and girls were treated like copper, if you have ever felt unwanted because of something you cannot change, like your gender or your birth order, I want to hear from you. Was I too harsh, too soft, or exactly in the middle of a hard truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments, argue with me. Share your own stories. Challenge what you think is normal in your community. Because if we do not talk about this, nothing changes. And somewhere, another little girl might be sitting in the rain instead of in her father's arms. If this story made you feel anything at all, anger, hope, sadness, a little courage, do me a favor, hit like. So more people see it. Subscribe if you want more real stories like this, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that a daughter is never useless. I am Musa, and this was the night I stopped being just a son and chose to be the father my little girl deserves.